Xbox CEO Asha Sharma and Xbox Chief Content Officer Matt Booty posted an open letter to all Xbox employees yesterday saying, quote, "This cannot continue," regarding their ongoing spending amid declining revenue. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to know what that means. Big time layoffs, probably.
Yeah, that's what we're used to. I mean, they're going to be finding ways to save money and desperately trying to find ways to make more. None of that's going to be good from our side, I'm sure, and certainly not good if you are currently an Xbox employee, and certainly not good if you're an Xbox contractor. To me, this is a clarion call to update the resume. I don't want to be defeatist, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, get that open to work thing ready for your LinkedIn profile for sure. So the executive duo's open letter titled Next 100 Days, Xbox Reset condenses Xbox's current challenges and opportunities into 5 points that we will summarize and add context when appropriate. But the biggest takeaway, pretty simple. They reiterate in numerous ways that Xbox is spending too much and making too little.
Yeah, and that usually means layoffs. Generally, headcount is the most expensive thing that a company incurs and also is the first to go. So we don't know that there'll be layoffs, but that's usually what it means. All of this is validated by YouTube sensation Jason Schreier, who reports that Xbox will undergo, quote, major job cuts next month. So we're not the only ones to say it. Once Xbox's fiscal year closes on June 30th.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, Sharma had a runway where everything would be nice, and then the belts tighten. Schreier did specifically mention a huge budget slash for marketing, which is interesting timing, given that Asha Sharma did just give a theater full of people an Xbox Series X.
Yeah, and potentially to Sharma and Booty's credit, their open letter spells out a practical enumeration of Xbox's problems in proper bad news fashion. They lead with the good news in the first point, saying that over 1 billion players play games on Xbox every year, racking up 72 billion hours across all platforms. But then the bad news comes.
You got to do the good news, bad news, good news. That's a shit sandwich, right? You get the good stuff and then the shit's in the middle. And their second point, they state that Xbox will close the year at a 3% accountability margin, which is actually down year over year. 3% seems like a small number, right, Lawrence? But what the heck is an accountability margin?
Yeah, you'd probably want that to be higher, right? But yeah, so this is kind of a complicated answer. Best we can tell, it is a custom metric used by Microsoft internally that's basically the same as profit margin, but potentially excludes particular costs like payroll, fixed costs that are considered just operation of the business. So it's loosely a way for them to define their efficiency against certain types of spend, not necessarily what costs their entire unit to operate. That's also how former Xbox CEO Phil Spencer defined it, kind of, in the leaked transcripts of that 2023 FTC lawsuit to prevent them from acquiring Activision Blizzard. That's the most transparent look we ever had at Microsoft's financials and the best shot we've got, because they were using accountability margin back then, which, fun fact, it was 12% back then.
Spencer also said the Xbox business had a single-digit profit margin back then. So accountability margin would be higher because payroll costs and who knows what else, rent, health insurance, office catering might be taken out. Regardless, there's clearly two ways to drive this up: increase revenue or reduce spend.
That's right. Yeah, the old profit and loss, the way every business operates. Their third point is harrowing, to say the least. They write that console storage and memory costs for this holiday season will likely be 5 times higher than they were last fall. That's insane. 5 times higher because of the AI, by the way, that Microsoft has been spearheading, just so you know. They also revealed that Xbox has been disproportionately hit by these cost increases due to the choices we made over the last half decade, possibly referring to the engineering of the Xbox Series consoles.
Yeah, maybe they just have expensive bits in there. And they didn't know 5 years ago that those bits would become mega expensive, so they made a choice, they rolled the dice, and it seems like they're getting stung by it now. And despite Xbox's comparatively low console sales this generation, they do say that Xbox is, quote, currently unable to make as many consoles as players want to buy, which is surprising and probably a very dire picture of how bad component shortages are getting if even Xbox can't fill the meager demand they have for their consoles.
Yeah, they shouldn't have given away those free ones. That was probably $5,000 a pop. But yeah, for the fourth point, Sharma and Booty address Xbox's spree of acquisitions. They are tastefully vague here, though the obvious worry is that Xbox will close studios. They do say that Xbox is, quote, overextended and will, quote, need to reassess the balance, quote, between funding exclusive games and other investment priorities for the next 5 years.
Their last point is probably the scariest for Xbox employees and contractors. They call the current platform infrastructure overly complex and say Xbox has become too reliant on vendors to operate our systems. That's not good. Accordingly, they want to rebuild Xbox's solution stack and evaluate potential mergers and acquisitions to help us win in hardware, PC, mobile, and streaming.
I find it a little odd that in the same block they acknowledge that they're a little overcomplicated in their stack and they need to cultivate internal talent rather than rely on vendors, but then in the same breath say that maybe we'll buy more companies that'll help us get there. I don't know, it seems contradictory, but man, I don't think Microsoft ever met an acquisition it didn't like, so it's just in their DNA. I think they throw money at problems.
Yeah, they close the letter by acknowledging these realities will be surprising and even frustrating to discover, and that Xbox won't succeed by hiding hard truths, nor will we succeed by doing the same thing and expecting different results. They sign off with what seems like Xbox's current mission statement to build the #1 gaming and entertainment company.
Okay. This is not a letter you want to read if you're an employee, by the way. This is a bad one. All of this is consistent with the comment Asha Sharma made to Bloomberg Tech about a week ago when she said, quote, "My mandate is not 30% accountability margins. It's not enterprise software margins. It's to be the #1 gaming and entertainment company. And that's what we're going to do."
Well, sure, but even in this email, they say that there are certain margins that they are not able to tolerate. So they still have to make money and be mindful of their spend. But that could also just be driving towards a more efficient business department, one that's faster and can actually succeed. It's kind of all connected, you know? There's one other tidbit here, one other little dramatic, juicy bit that really has nothing to do with anything, but God bless Jason Schreier for fanning the flames here a little bit. Schreier reported that Xbox actually pulled a trailer for Halo Campaign Evolved from PlayStation State of Play last week, kind of last minute, which potentially resulted in some sore feelings and damaged the relationship between the two. So, proud to say the console wars are back, and pretty clearly Xbox doesn't see a lot of future in placating PlayStation at this point. So maybe we'll get some snipes again. Maybe we'll get some. Maybe the claws are going to come out. We'll see. It does make for good entertainment, and that, incidentally, these days makes for good free PR. Now back to that accountability margin thing. I got a bit of a theory on that. I think they specifically used that metric because that's the one they're telling their own employees. I don't think they care too much about the relevance outside of that specific metric that they referenced. But I think what that said, okay, so if we presume that does not include salary, they used that term to tell their own employees that we are not looking at our profit margin, including payroll. So that means that if we want to drive this metric up, that layoffs won't affect it, right? I think they use that metric on purpose to signal to their own employees that to look at improving or to driving up their efficiency and their profit margins as a unit. They're not necessarily looking at slashing payroll. I think that was the intention in using it and what they wanted to communicate. I don't think that that's the reality, but I think that was the effort made, and that's why that particular metric was used. But that's based on the assumption that it doesn't include payroll, which it may, but it clearly doesn't include some things because of how the FTC lawsuit went anyway. So that's the end of my conspiracy theorizing on that particular thing. To roll back to something else we reported on even yesterday. So remember when Asha Sharma said that they're going to reveal more exclusives when the Xbox business is in a healthier state? I think we see what that means now is that she's unfortunately got a battle plan. She's got a number of limbs that she has to cut off. So that's business one, is like chopping her way down to whatever margin or spend that she's targeting. And then from there, once that business is done, then she can start to talk about future strategies. So I don't know. That's how I read the situation. And this is going to be a tough 6 months. She's going to get hated by her employees. She's going to get lambasted on the internet. She has shown a lot of, I think, intelligence and awareness of how to manage image. I'm kind of curious if she can weather this storm. And cynically, if she'll be allowed to remain CEO after the dirty work is done. I'm a bit afraid that she's been put there to do the layoffs so that the next one in line can swoop in once all the violence is done, and then get to be the fun CEO that does all the spending and all the hiring and everything like that. So that's all. I don't know. How do you guys read the situation? What do you think?
Well, so now I know you're already typing your comment on our video. It says, Lawrence, you hate Xbox. Bruce, you hate Xbox. Brian, you hate Xbox. You've hated Xbox for years. You're the worst. Hold on a second. Just give me a second, okay? I think it's really great that they're being transparent. I love that Ashley Sharma and Matt Booty are actually telling us what's going on. They don't really tell us what the accountability margin is. By the way, I think it's just a bullshit way of saying profit margin. I don't think that they actually want to say profit margin because it sounds bad. So they say accountability margin. It's just this flowery corporate bullshit that they use to say to employees, even though they just want to make money, guys. It's a company and wants to make money. It's always the same. But I do appreciate that they're being very transparent. I like that. They have been really, really vocal, Matt and Asha, over the last week. We're reporting on a news story every single day, sometimes twice in a day from Xbox. And I like that. I like to find out what's going on. But I think what Lawrence said is true. I do think that they're going to lay people off. I think that that's going to be a really bad thing here in the next few months. And it's going to take a long time for them to sort of regenerate from those layoffs, from spending all the money on the 500% more components. They're not selling Xboxes. I keep saying this, but I don't know that there's really anything that's going to bring them back from the dead other than Project Helix, if it's Project Helix. But that's a year and a half away. That's a really long time away, and we're not going to know sales for such a long time. So, but I'll bring it back and say I always want Xbox to succeed, because I do. I always want Xbox to succeed. We just had so much negative stuff to report on in the last 6 months from them, after Phil Spencer leaving and the Game Pass price increase and all that stuff. Just it's been all bad for an Xbox. So I'm hoping that they turn it around here at some point.
I think fundamentally, I think they're suffering from two things. I think the acquisition of Activision Blizzard may have been just a big mistake. They may have just bought really high on that. $69 billion? Nice. And now they're trying to pay that off. And I think, we've all worked at places where they start talking about cutting costs. Once they start looking at the amount of printer paper that people are using, it is not a good sign. Cuts are coming. But also, I think given the supply shortages, given energy shortages in parts of the world, I think they're getting squeezed at both ends. She may have been brought in, to cut costs because, I think they were just buying everything in sight over the front half of this decade. I think the bill is coming due, and I think, I think you do, need to bring somebody in maybe who's look, we've got to get spending under control. And I think that's what's happening here. I think it's going to get painful. If it helps Xbox survive, I totally get it, but it sucks. It sucks that, these decisions that were made that I think turned out to be bad bets are going to, have big consequences on everybody down below. But, that's corporate America, baby.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I want to echo Bruce's appreciation for this communication, because I've been pretty snippy, kind of like Bruce said, whenever the Xbox executives have taken the stage and spoken in very flowery language, whereas I felt the shoe was about to drop, and we're almost there. But at least they're being pretty clear as an executive can be, about what's coming and why. And I really appreciate that. At least the messaging and the actions are starting to be a little consistent, and we're starting to get a vision of what the future looks like, even if, it's just going to be triage for the next year or year plus. Also, I'm going to say it, I kind of respect it that Phil really did just burn a lot of Microsoft's money and then leave. I mean, he took corpo money and funded a lot of video games and made them very cheap to get for a long time. So I think that's pretty sick. I don't know. The reality has crashed down. There was a version of all this playing out where tens of millions of people signed up for Game Pass and everything was fine. But it was a bet. It didn't pay off. So here we are, and that sucks. And now Phil's sipping Mai Tais somewhere. Maybe playing Kiln or what was the other one? Keeper. Playing one of the weird games that he got funded and made along the way. So hopefully he enjoys his retirement. Yeah, Sharma's got a real tough road. Let me shout this out right now. If you're thinking about it, buy an ROG Xbox Ally right now, because Sharma specifically called out subsidies when she was talking to Bloomberg. I didn't get the quote, but they are not going to subsidize hardware anymore, especially after this fiscal. So you've got probably till the end of June, and then they're probably going to announce a price increase on that, and it's going to go way, 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 way up. So the ROG Xbox Ally, for sure, especially after the price increases on the Steam Deck and the Switch 2, you really can't do better than that. It's like the budget king right now. And it has been for a while. It was even $450 over the holiday and no one gave a shit. Anyway, please take a look at it. Disclosure, I guess. I did get one for free, but it's great. So I'm going to shill for it as hard as I can. But yeah, that's your early warning on that regard.
Yeah, Lawrence is exactly correct. You got to buy that ROG Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X. They're fantastic machines. Better than the base Steam Deck, by the way. And they're not going to be that price. Probably in like 3 months, my guess is. I don't know if they're going to give us a warning on that price increase, if they're just going to be like, now they're $1,200, sorry. That might just happen, unlike the Nintendo Switch 2 price increase. So thank you very much for watching Inside Games Daily, as always. We appreciate you guys watching the show, watching with us when we put up 2 episodes in a day. We've noticed, I've seen a lot of people being like, I watched both episodes. Like, that's huge. So thank you. And also, we have a Patreon. If you're supporting that Patreon, that's going to allow us to make more content than ever before, like we have been doing. So thank you very much to a few people that are supporting that Patreon. Goose Insurance, Baron 5X, and Just a Chair. We appreciate it. And just for you, we're going to make 10 episodes tomorrow.